And good morning, Ultra Engineers. Today we've got a totally kick-ass presentation talking about the new features in the brand new Ultra Engine 0.9.9 beta, which came out this week. This is the first full week of 2025, the first week of development, and a lot of features were added in just 1 week, in just the first week. So I've got 5 new features to talk about and a 6th secret bonus feature that you have right now, but I haven't told anybody what it is. What could it be? I don't know, but if you stay tuned towards the end of the presentation, I will tell you what the secret feature is. So, this is a very nice model of a statue. I think this is in Denmark. This looks a lot like the stuff they have in Denmark. I think it represents like the Nile River. It's like a Greek statue, but it's I think this guy's like the god of the river or something. You can see the Sphinx over here, and then from what I gather, I think the little children playing they represent. I guess the Nile rises by like 16 cubits. I think is a unit of measure. In its annual flooding, and so the water being portrayed as mischievous and sometimes destructive children crawling all over everything is a funny touch over here. I like they're just playing with the crocodile and he's just sitting there. But I'll get to this statue in a minute and why it's important. But let's talk about the 5 features. So, Ogg Vorbis sound file support was added. MP3 file support was added to the patents for this technology expired. I think in 2017. So there's absolutely no problem. You can now use MP3 without any worries. We have UV unwrapping built right into the modeling tools, which is really handy to have. We have a mesh reduction tool to make LODs, or if you just have a high poly model and you want to turn it into something that's useful for real time, you can use it for that. And we have ambient occlusion baking. And we'll talk about all of these, and then at the end we'll talk about the secret feature. Okay, so the first 3 are they just work as you would expect them to. So with Ogg Vorbis and MP3, you just call load sound, and they just work perfectly. The mesh UV unwrapping, if you go to the tools menu in the model editor interface, and then select UV unwrap, you can UV unwrap the first or the second channel. Let's get to mesh reduction. This is really cool. You open a model, and then you go to the main menu and you select the Tools Reduce Mesh option. And this brings up a little dialog that gives you a few options. You can set the number of polygons you want, and a tolerance value, the preserve topology option. It will give you, in some cases, it will give you better results. In some cases, you don't need it. But it tends to be really good at preserving details for mechanical things with hard edges, like this Lamborghini. This is reduced from, down from 97,000, so about 100,000 polygons, down to 12,000 polygons, and it still looks great. So I'm very, very happy with how this turned out. Here's a character model being reduced by, I don't know how much, but it's a lot. I think of this as like Doom Eternal, Doom, Rage, Quake 3. So it works with mechanical shapes. It works with organic shapes. Here's our Nile statue being reduced from 300,000 polygons down to 28,000, and does a really nice job of that. No holes in the mesh. It looks really, really good. So this turned out really, really, really nicely.
Is
This
the preview is the preview live, or you have to like save it before you get to see the result? Because are there
so
like
oh yeah,
immediate?
so So you can adjust the slider, and it's pretty much real time.
Okay.
It's very, very fast. And then what you can do is either apply it to the base mesh, or you can add another LOD onto the model. So this allows you to very quickly just generate LODs for any model right in the editor.
Yeah, because I really liked in EU 3D, Unreal 3D. I pretty much just like made log one pretty much. I kind of like worked backwards, and I could like see when too low was when low is too low
Yeah.
when the model started collapsing with each other. So I just got it like just over right before it started to do that. So
Yeah, I like
yeah,
how they did it in Unwrap 3D, and I think you'll find that this is that had some influence on this. This is pretty similar. You can just drag that slider, and it's pretty much instant.
What
okay,
kind of
so
decimation are you doing here? Quad or a combination of welding or?
Uh, Combination of techniques.
All right.
So here's a this tree. This came from Plant Catalog, which is free, but it's very high poly. These were 150,000 polygons each, and they're reduced down to 9,000 triangles each, which is very usable. So you could use this as like the top level LOD, and then reduce it further for further away LODs. So it can turn meshes that are not real time into usable real time assets. Let's talk about ambient occlusion. To use this, you just go to in the model editor in the same interface. You select the tools ambient occlusion menu, and what this does. Okay, so I changed the way that AO works a little bit. In the GLTF file format, it's a separate texture, but it can also be the same texture as the roughness metallic texture image. But it's just the occlusion is stored in the red channel. So if you use the same texture in both slots, it doesn't cause any problems. And that's just how the GLTF format indicates that occlusion should be used. I decided to require that AO is always packed into the red channel of the what is now the occlusion roughness metalness image. And so it'll handle when it's loading the GLTF, it'll handle this automatically. It just requires that. I mean, almost all GLTF files actually already store the occlusion in the roughness metal image. I think it's just that occlusion was probably added later. And then we have a per material occlusion property, which you can use to control the strength of the occlusion. So if you have a metal roughness map that doesn't have any AO data on the red channel, then you just disable occlusion. And by default, all materials have occlusion set to 0. So it's something that you need to opt in. But here's a look at what it does. It looks fantastic, and it only calculates in a couple of seconds. Really, really good results with this. I'm using X normal for this, but I could write my own. I might do that to have a little bit of more control over it. But I was able to get this set up very quickly, and X normal is free to use. So this is giving us very, very nice results. Let's see. Oh yeah. Okay. So this changes the workflow pretty significantly. It makes things a lot easier because we only have to import models once. So after you model something, I've found whether you use Blender or 3ds Max or whatever modeling program you use, usually the first thing you want to do is export it to Ultra and place it in your scene and make sure that it's the right size. Make sure that everything looks right, that you didn't like accidentally make something too big or too small. And what you can do now is you can unwrap the UVs right there in Ultra. So you can place the model and start using it in your scene. And at any time, you can export it to GLTF. And that's a one-way export. You're not going to bring a model back in. You're just exporting it to GLTF. And then you can use that with Substance Painter if you want. And then when you bring the model back in, you don't have to ever re-import the model. You can just bring the textures in and apply them to the existing model. So as soon as you have the model unwrapped, you can export it for texturing, and you can keep using it. You can bake the ambient occlusion, you can generate the LODs, you can use it, you can place it in your scene, and you don't have to worry about re-importing it later and breaking the model because the exporter added some extra nodes or did something funny. So this greatly streamlines the workflow. Having all of this stuff built right into the software, using our own model format, which has been very solid and reliable. It just works a lot better because modeling programs, they always do weird things with the exports. It seems like they kind of don't really care about the model once it gets out of the modeling program. They just, I mean, that's the feeling I get. So, just eliminating that problem so there's only one import step makes things a lot smoother, not just for use with Substance, but also we don't have to worry about generating LODs in another program. We don't have to worry about baking ambient occlusion in another program. We can just handle it all in Ultra, and it does a fantastic job.
Can you also export OBJ with the new unwrapped?
Yes.
Or, all right. Yeah.
There's only one exception to that, and that is if you want very specific ways of baking ambient occlusion, because there are different types. Because in some instances, you might actually need hemisphere ambient occlusion for some models.
Okay. Well, you still, even then, you can export,
because you're going for a specific style.
Yeah.
So.
Well, even then, you can export a GLTF or an OBJ, and you can do the AO baking on that, and then just bring in the texture, right? You don't have to import. I mean, it's not going to modify the UV coordinates, is it?
Well, no, but I mean.
So yeah, you can just.
What I'm saying is that in some instances you might need a hemisphere light that gets baked onto the model. That's what I'm saying.
Right. But as long if you do the unwrapping first and then just export the GLTF or the OBJ, then you can that can be a one-way process, just like with Substance. And then after you have your AO map, you can just bring the image in. You don't have to bring the model back in, right?
No, you can just put the texture back in.
Right. So that's the kind of thing I mean, and that's how it can simplify things by. That it really does eliminate a lot of problems because different modeling programs and different applications, they never export what they like. They never export. They always add extra nodes. They always have weird, non-standard coordinate systems. So this just does away with all of that.
Yeah.
A lot of earlier days, they used to do a lot of hemisphere ambient occlusion baking, actually, funny enough. So
yeah, but I think this really solves what we were running into with the template, because Josh was the modeler pretty much and Andy was just painted, so there was like this huge gap. If you're the artist, you pretty much just do everything in one swoop, but it is really great if a modeler and the painter are two different people, or you're doing a solo game and you just want your meshes in just so you can get something up and running.
Yeah. Also for LODs, like every time I made any LODs, like I would export a GLTF and then I would have to reapply the materials when I brought it back in. I probably could have gotten around that, but I just didn't bother. It was easier just to.
That took me ages. It took me a whole week to do all the LODs for like the radios and everything because of how like tedious it was.
Yeah, so this simplifies a lot of things. So we've got a little bit of news from the forum. Let's talk about a couple of things. We've got Alien Head posted a very nice video that we will watch. It's a short one, but he has this like item dropper thing that uses physics to naturally place objects. This is very cool. Not sure if this has any sound or not. I love this little raccoon. The movements are so funny.
In my head canon, all raccoons are named Rocky. No, because my mom used to have a raccoon named Rocky, and he was like, and when he got older, he became nasty. Yeah, I was talking to him on the Discord. It'd be really great if this was like part of like an editor extension you can do instead of making like a separate app.
I think what he's doing now is he's
Ooh.
creating this and then saving the scene and then opening the scene back in the editor. But who knows? Maybe this will become a tool within the editor in the future. I'm not sure what his plans are with this. But it's very cool to see this, see what he's working on. Trash bags everywhere.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Fizz tool in Hammer++.
Yeah. And raccoons love trash bags, of course.
They also like eggs.
That doesn't surprise me.
Eggs, yeah.
Well, they like to wash them or something. My mom's raccoon washed them.
Yeah.
They
The
don't
funny
eat
thing
them?
is, Reap, we actually had this for Source, but you had to pair the Hammer with live launch of the game.
Yeah.
In other news, so that's from Alien Head. In other news, Slipgate Tactics has some updates. The biggest thing they added was a tutorial level, so I think that'll make the game easier to play, easier to get into. Slipgate Tactics is a game, not a mod, that uses the Quake content. It's a Quake-based game, so you need to have Quake to play it, which I think everybody in the world has it at this point, or they should. But it turns Quake into a turn-based tactics game. So you can check that out on itch.io. I'll have a link in the video description. And there's a tutorial level now, so it's easier to figure out how to play the game. So that was just announced this morning. It looks very cool. And I'll talk about the secret feature in a minute, but before I do, I just want to point out, Ultra Engine Pro has a 96% positive rating on Steam. Thank you everyone. Your reviews on Steam help us out more than anything else. It improves our visibility on Steam, which ensures that I can continue adding lots of features for you, like the 5 that came this week and the 6th one that I'm about to talk about. So I'm going to go through and thank each person here, because that is how much their contribution means to the future of Ultra. T-Ticky, Drogowit, The Cuzzy, Cap Crunch, Metal OS, Acnologia, Knievels, Ricochet, Andy. Is Andy here today?
Yeah.
Andy, thank you. We need do we have a sound? I think we have a sound. The soundboard has something for Andy, doesn't it? Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Andy 90 left us. He preferred an idle lifestyle.
Yeah, we played that like yesterday because he was AFK. He wasn't.
Did Trash Can Useful make that?
Yeah.
Okay. Gashish Master, Marcy 3D, Gamer, Saru 71, Mazel, Timmy, you, Plisa, Gravitate Games, Lilybite, Wreckage, who I believe is here today.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey.
Thank you, Wreckage. Technofox, Casmic, Doctor Who 3D GX, who has, this guy is a one-man marketing campaign for 3D World Studio 6. So I really appreciate his help and getting all that set up. I'll probably have some news on that next week. JD Gaming, Reap Blue, who is here as well. Thank you, Reap. Anthony _Python, CCX18. Is Anthony here?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Anthony. CCX18888, Edelin Trick, Merrick IJC, Kent. He sometimes hangs out. Is here. Tell me if I name somebody who's here and I don't point it out, then please
Yeah, I
point it
don't
out
think
to me.
Kent's here.
Okay. Merrick IJC.
Lisa, you didn't say was here.
Who?
Plisa?
Plisa. All right, now Plisa. He's got the cool zombie profile picture. Thank you, Plisa. Thank you very much. Sorry for missing you. Kent, Old Amsterdam. Drake Black, who is the author of Slipgate Tactics, the game, not a mod, as I mistakenly called it like about a month ago. I was corrected,
Yeah.
and I appreciate his correction. Merrick, Project Mayhem. The first rule of Project Mayhem is you do not talk about Project Mayhem. Ultra is all about breaking the rules, so we're talking about Project Mayhem today. Thank you. Pedrito. James W. Harden, thank you, James. He sometimes hangs out. I didn't see if he was here today or not. Troy, is James here?
No.
Okay,
No.
he was here last week. Thank you, James. Troyanator, thank you, really appreciate it. And _altitude_. So thank you all for your reviews. We're at 27 reviews on Steam right now for Ultra Engine Pro. I'm very curious to see what happens when that gets up to 30, because we can learn, we can look at that and see, like, okay, where are the thresholds where they change the description of the rating, because like 96% with the number of ratings we have, that it says it's positive, but it's like a weighted average. So the more you have, it's not just the percentage you have, it's the total number of reviews you have. So maybe it'll go up to very positive when we hit 30. I don't know. Let's find out. But yeah, so your reviews on Steam are very, very important. And if you haven't gotten yours up yet, this might be the perfect time to do so. You don't have to give a big lengthy review. Just give us a thumbs up and you can say, it's cool, I like it. You know,
I think it's neat.
Yeah, the description doesn't matter, so it doesn't have to be very lengthy, but it's just more about the raw numbers. So thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it. And with that, we'll now get to secret feature. Secret feature. Ha! What could it be? Okay, so I was working with some sounds that were in OGG format. They were sounds for footsteps. And unlike the ones that I have that come with Ultra, these were in mono format. And so when I was playing them, when the player was walking around, they would be spatialized. And so I would hear them coming out of like one ear or the other. And I was like, well, this is no good. We don't want this. But then I thought, well, you know, if somebody else is walking, you want spatialization because you want to hear their footsteps coming from the right direction. So what should I do? Should I decompress this OGG file and then convert it to mono, or convert it to stereo with two identical channels and then recompress it with OGG compression again? I didn't want to recompress a decompressed sound file, and I didn't want to have two copies of the file, one for mono and one for stereo. So I added a command for the sound speaker. This is called set spatialization. So by default, OpenAL uses 3D sound spatialization when mono sound sources are played, and it disables it for stereo sounds. This new method provides explicit control over 3D spatialization. It can be used to make a stereo sound spatialized or to disable spatialization when a mono sound is played. So it takes one argument, an integer for the mode, and you have three options. You can set it to 1 to enable spatialization, whether the sound is mono or stereo. You can set it to 0 to disable spatialization for both mono and stereo sound sources, or you can set it to -1 and the default behavior will be applied, which is use 3D spatialization for mono sounds and don't use it for stereo sounds because it assumes it's like music or something. So secret feature, that's the 6th one. You've got 6 in total on top of the UV unwrapping, OGG support, MP3 support, mesh reduction, and ambient occlusion baking. This is
A lot of small
everything.
stuff.
What's that?
There's a lot of small stuff that just makes everything better to use.
Yeah, I was actually thinking like for 099, I was thinking, well, I know I want the asset downloader built into the editor to replace the ambient CG extension. And I thought maybe, I had some of these things in mind, but I thought I didn't want to even talk about them because I wasn't sure. I didn't think I'd be able to get them done in time. And then I got like everything done in the first week.
You just brazed right through it, huh?
Well, I mean, I didn't run into it. It was all pretty simple things. And I attribute that to having a good foundation to build on. So everything was very easy to integrate. Everything went very smoothly. I actually tried to get the mesh reduction working in, I wanted that to be a feature in 098 actually. But I was having too many problems with it. And then, I took another stab at it and then this week I had it working in one day. So everything went really smoothly. So I think the lesson here is that I should go on vacation every month for 3 weeks
and come back with new eyes.
and then just work for a week and we'll get better results, right? Do we all agree on this?
I think maybe
No.
not like take like a month off, or maybe like, I don't know, maybe after every update you should take like at least a week off or two.
I think you should take 2 days off a week. That works.
I've been thinking about starting that. I've been considering it.
Yeah, we just.
All right, so there we go. Secret feature, sound set spatialization. Any questions from you guys?
So now that we have the ability to just make LEDs, I was thinking maybe there's some way you can implement so that we can just make allow us to mark bones for like certain levels of LEDs to be able to collapse. Because you don't need, the further you get, you might not need all those bones being computed.
This is actually in Leadworks. The bones were entities, and they were part of the LOD system actually, and that's something that I think I either did it or that would have been a recommended way of doing things in that system. With Ultra, the number of bones doesn't really matter.
Well, I mean, you don't need like 6 or 7 or even potentially more if we're like LED 5. I mean, you can't even see the hands bend,
It's probably better and easier. Okay, so the skeletal system isn't tied to LODs. And it's so fast. Like animation is all performed on a separate thread separate from the game logic, and it actually allocates as many threads as it needs based on how long it's taken, the last step took, and how many bones and skeletons there are. So I think it's actually better to just let the full resolution skeletons do their thing, and then just weigh a lower resolution mesh onto them. I think that actually works out better, just due to the way that Ultra is architected. And you can have thousands of. You can probably. I wouldn't be surprised. The most I've ever tested was 1,000. You could probably have 10,000 animated characters with no performance on impact from the animation, at least.
Well, how does it determine for the skinning on the lower LEDs with the automated ones? Do you just do closest vertices, or?
So the mesh reduction, one really nice thing about it is it retains original vertices. All the vertices in the low resolution mesh are vertices that appear in the high resolution mesh. There's just fewer of them. There's a lot of vertices that get eliminated, and new mesh topology is created across those vertices. But since the vertices are mapped to the old ones, all of the existing vertex attributes get retained, such as bone weighting. So it works. So it works out really, really well.
Right. So you're keeping the same index one. Is what you're saying.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a new set of vertices that's smaller, but they all
Right.
every vertex that is used.
But you just
corresponds to an
connect to the
original.
nearest ones.
Something like that, yeah.
All right.
I think we might have a new person here.
Yeah, hello.
Hello, welcome. I can't see your name. You don't have to say it if you don't want to.
Sure.
I have streaming mode.
Yeah, it's
here.
Renha.
It's
Yes.
what?
It's Renha.
Okay, welcome. Is this your first time at a?
Yeah.
Okay. We call this weekend workshop. The first rule of weekend workshop is you do not talk. No, you can talk about weekend workshop. The second rule of weekend workshop is if this is your first day at weekend workshop, you've got to make a
Excuse
game. Welcome.
During the
welcome.
workshop.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay, so do we have any questions about 099?
What's the main focus of 099? Is it just little things and cleanup, or for 0.1, or?
Well, I think the big thing is going to be the asset downloader that's going to include. I've got over 2,000 PBR materials in 1K and 2K format. We've got about 20,000 GLTF models that are ready to use. All of that stuff is going to be uploaded into this system, and then we're just going to have a browser built into the editor that automatically browses and downloads this stuff into your project. And it also is planned to support things like different tools and extensions and add-ons to the editor that you upload in this system. So, what we found is it's just super convenient having that right in the editor, because we had it we had an extension that added that feature for Ambient CG materials, and it was super handy. Ambient CG, they're changing their web API. I think they should have just created a new version 3 of it instead of modifying something that's live. But it no longer works, but that's okay because I was planning to do this anyway. So it'll be PBR materials and 3D models and user-made extensions and shaders and things. This happens at a good time because, of course, Sketchfab is going away.
Which is pretty sad.
Yeah, and what's scary is those models are now being uploaded in Fab with a different license.
Entirely, yeah.
They were free, but now they're free
Some
as
of them
long
are
as
not, or some of them are, and then I don't know. It's weird.
they're free as long as you're poor, but then when your game starts making money, then Epic's gonna come knocking on your door if you downloaded it from Fab.
Asking for that $500,000.
Yeah, so fortunately, I've got you covered with this system. I've got a ton of content, very good stuff. All of it's free right now. We can in the future have this system also supports paid content if you have ideas for things that you would like to sell through it. But I'm not right now. I'm just focusing on making the best experience possible for you, so that you can download lots of free content.
What happened to the full screen asset browser?
The Ambient CG extension?
No, there was like a view on the side panel where you could look at your asset browser, and it was like a full window, and it was like big icons.
It was like it was like an alternative folder browser.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a feature briefly in one of the betas of 098, and I removed it because there was problems with it.
Okay.
I kind of liked it, but it kind of also kind of wasn't worth dealing with the issues. And then it's also like I'm not a huge fan of having two different ways of doing things in the same program.
Right.
Right. All
So
right.
yeah, it didn't. Yeah, sometimes features just I try them out and they don't make it into the final release. So Alien
Well,
Head has now joined us. We were talking about you, sir. We watched your video. Was he here the whole time?
He was here the whole time, I
Oh.
think, most of it.
Okay.
no, I was just asking because when I uploaded the developer textures for people to use, I wanted to just get a snip of just all the I just wanted like a snip of like just all the assets, big and everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh
Yeah, I
it's
kind of
missing.
liked it. Maybe we'll bring it back. When the time is right.
Well, we is there also going to be like looking like the asset browser being like adding more filters and cursive searching and all that too? Or-
Possibly. It's kind of a balancing act between making it too complicated and yeah.
Right.
So, but we'll just go one step at a time and see how it goes.
Hey.
Right. Let's see. I thought about making maybe a small template on showing how to use the Steamworks stuff.
Like
For
what kind of features?
Multiplayer.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
always use the same app ID, or we could use Space Wars. It should work still.
You could use Space Wars. What would be really cool if you could just have like a first person you don't have to like have them shoot each other. Just take the first person template and just add multiplayer into it, and then
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Because
would
I think-
I kind of want to make like a basic like tournament game, and I don't want to like get into a lot of details with the gameplay itself. Just so that you can shoot someone.
And that replicates over across the network. and
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
works
just the
properly.
basics, and
You know,
because you can take that
just-
and you can turn it into any type of game.
Yeah, or
The
showing
original
how just
Unreal
send
Tournament.
text and stuff or whatever.
Yeah,
Just very basics where to get this started to grab the rope.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, next week, I'm really not sure. I wasn't sure at the beginning of the week what I was going to be working on, and then we got those 5 features plus the 6th bonus feature done. And this week, I'm also just like, I think I'm not really going to think about it until Monday, and then I'll just see where inspiration strikes, because that approach actually seems to be working pretty well.
yeah, I think you get your best ideas from actually using your tools instead of just assuming what people need.
Yeah, eating your own dog food, as they say.
Yeah.
That's such a strange expression.
Yeah, because I think I was complaining about like how the sound system worked about this visualization for like ever, and like I don't like to use it because I have to edit my sounds, and that's really annoying.
Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
It's
this
like,
sucks.
Yeah.
Does OpenAO have does it have stuff for like room types, or we would have to?
It has
EAX effects.
yeah, it has that, but you have to like program it, and we were looking into making a component that you just make a volume with a brush in it automatically.
Yeah, and just like tag it or something.
Yeah, but we never implemented it, unfortunately. But that's something else I want to see.
Yeah, doing it as a component would be good, because you could probably use the probes for that, because they already are placed the way that you would have sound zones placed.
You could use the probes. You could use brushes. You could use whatever.
Yeah.
Makes the most sense. Yeah.
Hey guys, my name is Ben, and Josh. Hey Josh, I've got a question for y'all about the GLTF file format. Actually, in Blender, we have the capability to add something called a custom attribute, which could be a floating point value, an integer value, a floating, an array of flows, array of integer areas, a vector 3. One of the things that I've been wondering about is there any point in trying to embed variables inside of GLTF file formats for import?
Yes, we can do that.
So, but is there any point to it, or is it just better for us to write scripts directly inside of Ultra? Because I could, if I was making cheeseburgers and my cheeseburger model had a custom attribute that said ketchup and mustard, then I feel like that's something that your software could pick up, or is it what that does? That allows the artist to apply attributes to models. It kind of like the other guy said, sometimes your artists are the ones that help you make the decision about what your software has in it. And I just didn't know if that was like even something that you guys have played around with, was actually having your 3D artist apply variables to their models and whether that's even worth it.
Yeah. For example, you can add like for like jiggle bones and stuff as well, like variables for that or whatever, dampening and whatever.
Right.
Material types like wood, cement,
And
surface types, mass.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that
I think there's a lot of various use cases for them.
So you actually define your physics properties in your GLTF and you carry it over? Because I like that more than, because if I'm working with a bunch of engineers or a bunch of engineers that are, they know how much a piece of metal weighs. I would rather that engineer put that data in than me make a guess.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear you all say that. I didn't know.
I think there's a way to do that, but I don't think it's like implemented it today. Because we did discuss this a little while ago. Because
I'm sorry.
yeah, in the beta and one of the early betas, there was a way that you could add collision types and mass right to the model, and that was snipped out. But I would like to see like something like that if the developer wants to do that. But
I mean, predefined joints would be pretty cool, but
yeah.
So to be honest with you, when you right click a GLTF file and you go file open in Notepad, your business is in there. I mean, it even says the person's name who logged into the machine that made it. So if I go into Blender and I add my own custom attribute, yeah, I could do that. I didn't mean to derail this. Thank you all.
no, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, you just remind me of something we discussed like months ago.
Yeah, we talked. I think we talked about this in like November. Like somebody brought it up, and it's what I said. What I think I said was like it's already in there, but the way it's, I need to check and like confirm that it works the way it should.
Yeah,
but it's at least meant to, and if it doesn't work the way it's meant to right now, then I can do, that's something I can do next week.
Yeah, and then it has to be converted into, that has to be transferred to the MDL format too, which we can now do.
Oh, I think it's stored in a table that's associated with the entity. I think it's already in there. But I might have put things in like a sub table, like custom or user or something like that. I need to like go back and check, and like I should really make an example of it, just to make sure that it works the way it should.
That would be really great for when you have like models or like ragdolls. That'd be really nice.
Yeah, for sure.
The one thing that I was thinking about was ragdolls.
Yeah, it would just make everyone's life so much easier if you are able to do something like that.
It always makes people's lives easier when you can throw bodies downstairs.
I'll push you down. I'll help you.
It's faster.
I would like to see a ragdoll component.
Yes.
I have actually done that in Ultra before, or Leadworks before. I've set up a bunch of boxes and set up joints between them, and you end up with this dead body hanging from its neck, but it's still cool and it does
Yeah,
work.
but imagine if there was just a component that just automatically made a ragdoll. Like you didn't have to like.
Yeah, like on the spot. Yeah.
So
There are some that do that, but it's not done very often.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons that I was bringing this up, this whole GLTF and embedded text, is specifically for that. A friend of mine is writing a little video game, and he wants to be able to put trees in, but he doesn't want to have me say file export to tree directory, and because it's a lot. So he says, is there a way if I were to give you a class list for my silly little game? So exterior trees, grass, benches, things like that. Can you just simply write the name of the class in as a custom attribute, and then my software will go in, look for this attribute that you put in your GLTF, and it will just go ahead and populate the class. So one of the things I was thinking was, how nice would it be for me to say, okay, well, this is a class. I'm going to make a 3D model of a spaceship. And in there, I would actually write a class called Spaceship. And I would just tell Josh's software, hey, there's this class called Spaceship. Look this up, right? And any 3D
just attach it. Just create it, attach it with the info.
Right.
Well, you can also just create the spaceship, write a spaceship component, and then just make it a prefab.
That was the reason I asked originally. Does it even make sense to do that, or does it just make sense to define it all in Ultra?
It depends. I mean, if it's just going to be one singular object and it's not going to be changing anything after that, then maybe as one single prefab it'd be fine. But if you have something more complicated, but it's like a bunch of parts together, maybe not.
Yeah, I see that. You'd want to assemble those instantly, right? But
yeah, like modular, and then you would have some individual components to have their own things, that do for things.
Correct. So you'd have for instance, like Kerbal Space Program, you have like this rocket engine. This dude makes a 3D model of, and that dude has said this rocket puts out 5 kilo thrusts of power.
Of newtons. Yeah.
Yeah, and it drinks 14 teaspoons of gas per kilonewton. They establish some basic variables. Therefore, Josh doesn't have to work with it. The programmer doesn't have to work with it. He's just like, hey, look, here's a bunch of engines. Slap them on the bottom of your rocket and go. So, again, I did not mean to derail. This is very enlightening for me. But go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's I mean, the format for these things is I'll usually do like a presentation for the first half, and then after that it's just open discussion for any of your questions or anything. So,
just back
one
and
of
forth
the things
things,
is if you attach like all the attributes to the actual model, it becomes more difficult to edit that later on. Like if it's in a text file, anyone can change it, but if it's in the model, you literally have to open the model, figure out where the attribute's located, and then change it.
That's why I say it's probably pretty suited for things like joints, jiggle bones, and other things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
or
it's
for
like
instance,
tightly correlated
Where it's
with one
actually
specific
about the
thing.
model.
Or for example, you want which we have discussed blend shapes at some point. But just as an example, maybe you want like a certain kind of blend shape that goes in and out or something because of some kind of effect or something, I don't know.
Right. Those are the kinds of things I'm trying. Sometimes as a 3D artist, a lot of times when you get into a game engine, what you're really trying to do is you're trying to kind of stress test and flex test that system and figure out what you can get away with.
What can you get away with? What do you can't get away with, and how do you optimize it as best as you can so that people's PCs don't explode?
Right. Exploration. They just don't want to give me a charge number for it.
Right. Is that your dog, Reap?
Yeah, that's the beagle.
Where are the guts?
I don't know. She's outside, I guess.
Where's the cream cheese?
I don't know.
The cat's up.
Yeah. I don't know. We discussed a lot of like ideas, and then everyone just stops talking about them because they stopped being. I guess they were just fun ideas, but not really like, oh, we have to really have this like like the unwrapping or the sounds or you know what I mean. But you kind of want to. You really, really need something.
Oh my God, Josh.
Oh, you missed. You'll have to go back and watch the video if you didn't catch the beginning of it.
Yeah, I think he sent this to my work email, and I did not get the opportunity to respond to it. But this is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. So we in the first week, I added UV unwrapping, mesh reduction, and ambient occlusion baking, all in the editor.
So, man, Josh, you have played this game with me a million times. The fact that you have that UV unwrap in there, I
kind of pushed that. I wanted that because I hate you. I hate unwrapping so much.
Reeve doesn't know how to unwrap.
I mean, I don't mind unwrapping in Blender, but for somebody who's not a 3D artist, yes, it's very difficult.
He just hates it because it's so painful for him to do it.
I just don't comprehend it. I'm more of a level designer and a gameplay system programmer. I don't like. I can make shapes out of Blender, but like, my brain does not work in 2D. It only works in 3D.
Amazingly, my brain doesn't work in code. I'm an amazing 3D and 2D guy, but that's the power of what, you know, when I first started working with Josh back in like 2014 or 13 or something like that, like I was asking, I was like, hey dude, I don't want to have to go into Blender. Can I just drag and drop the model and then have it stack it? And then, you know, he added texture painting, like, what is it, Substance Painter?
Yeah, Andy's good at that.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that he had added that. I just, wow, what do you need Unity for?
Unity, we don't need Unity.
Yeah.
So yeah, the big thing this does is it means what I really found like when we were developing the first person template is like as soon as you model something, you want to get it into the level to make sure that it fits and make sure you didn't make any mistakes.
Yeah, and as soon as possible, so the level designer can actually place it in and figure out the shape of the level and make sure it actually fits and everything.
Yeah, because we don't want to. I don't want to like start. I don't want to hand it off to somebody for painting or for mesh reduction or anything until unless I'm sure that it fits in the level. And once I've got it in the level, I don't want to re-import it again. So with these features, we can just import the model once and then do the UV unwrapping right there, and then you can export it to Substance. Or if you want to, do something else like bake some special ambient occlusion or do some special mesh reduction technique, then you can do that. But you can keep the original model, and then you can just import just the textures. You don't have to re-import the model itself. I think this simplifies the pipeline quite a bit.
Yeah, and it's very common for things to get textured and retextured in games. I see it done all the time because sometimes the artists will be like, "Oh, I want to do this," and they're like, "Wait a minute, I have an idea," and then they go back to it. I knew an artist that always like repainted the same mesh 3 times.
Yeah,
that reminds me, Josh, how many vertex groups for a model can we support, for example, like for vertex color maps on a model?
How many vertex? What's a vertex group?
Vertex color.
Oh, how many vertex colors?
Yeah, like on the model itself. I don't mean on brushes. I mean like on the models.
He faded away.
I don't think I understand the question.
Vertex color is where you have colors on just the individual vertices.
Yeah, so one vertex has one color.
Yes, that's true. And it can support up to 255 million plus, right?
Yes, for each of the vertices. So, but most engines only support like one vertex color map at a time.
Right.
But sometimes you might need 2.
For what?
Well, Do you want one?
Well, so there is some. So, for example, there is some instances where if you have like a level where you don't want it to physically change, but you want the color of it to change for very specific areas, you can use a vertex color map, a second one, and overlap it.
Why
and
would
that
you
allows
just
you to change
transition?
things.
Why would you transition from one texture to another though?
It's like, so say you have a level, but it's actually supposed to be like two different levels, and it morphs. You can actually just do like a shift to that other one, for example. It just depends.
We want to be very careful about adding vertex attributes. We want to keep those to a minimum because it really does make a big difference. Having the smallest data structure possible, it will make a big difference in the performance, especially with high polygon meshes.
So do we only support one, or?
Yeah, there might be like a shader technique, or maybe using the vertex material painting or something. Or I mean, you could have a custom shader and then repurpose, some of the extra attributes like bone weights and bone indices could be turned into vertex, into extra. You could actually have like, I can think of a way to add 3 extra vertex colors just by repurposing existing data that's already in the structure.
Yeah, as long as it's like a vector 3 or something.
Well, vertex colors they're stored as 4 bytes.
Yeah.
So from 0 to 255, like standard RGBA color.
Oh, is it RGBA?
Yeah, you have
and
alpha
it's
too.
55, it's not 0.
Yeah.
It's a floating point. Okay, I'm sorry. But still, that provides a lot of information. I use vertex colors a lot for like fire and.
I mean, even in another example I can think of, you might need, maybe specific shading with vertex colors. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities with vertex color maps.
Yeah, and you can always also use a custom like a new text. Usually, oftentimes, like using a texture, storing that data in an extra texture is a lot easier.
Yeah,
because we have a lot of extra texture slots that we don't usually use.
So that was another question. Is there any discussion about exposing more of the shader editor so that we can do like shader mixing and things like that?
We had a lot of people ask for shader editor. We had a lot of people ask for exposed variables in the post-processing, I think.
So post-processing, like I see that because it is a cool way to offload things. One of the hardest things I always had to do in LEDWorks was to get my textures right and switch, almost like the gentleman talking about vertex color. What if I was like in a ballroom with a checkered floor, and then the bad guy walks in, and I actually want the floor to literally change from a checkered tile floor to like, I don't know, an all black tile. I would have a texture slider, like a mixer.
Well,
as the artist could actually just say, okay, and now script this thing to animate from one side to another, kind of like you would in Blender, right? In the shader.
I think it's like a skin thing. There's support for like animations in the DDS format. You could just, but I don't know. There's like a direct API way of like just swapping the texture, but you can. There's a depth in. It's the W axis in the texture, so you just put that like as frame 1 or frame 2, and then you just tell your game, hey, go to frame 2, switch the texture.
Well, so every vertex can be influenced by up to 4 materials, so you actually could just apply, in one swipe, you could apply to the entire mesh. You could say, you're this material, okay, now you're this material, or you could, smoothly transition between those two. You could use the vertex material painting for that.
Yeah, you just have to subdivide your brush, and it's only for brushes at this time.
Yeah, probably will be added to meshes in the near future.
Well, you said it's in the game. You said it's in the engine. It's just not. There's just no way to do it in the editor.
There's no UI in the editor for it, but
Yeah.
mesh is. But it's actually like a feature in the mesh system. So, and that's what the brushes use. It's just when to make that in the model system the way people want it to work. What I need to do is I need to add some unique data per instance per model, which is kind of a little bit of a paradigm change, but it's something I've dealt with before.
Yeah.
Can I send you a picture in the chat editor? And maybe what it is it's a picture of a shader in Blender I have that has a noise pattern on one side of the shader. Where's the chat?
Just this video is going on YouTube, FYI.
Oh, you know what? Don't worry about it. It's basically
Josh.
a mixer.
Sorry.
Yeah, you can post it. I just want to make sure you're aware of that.
How many bone influences can per vertex handle?
4.
4? Okay.
Oh yeah, I remember this UI thing here. Yeah, we've had a lot of people are asking for a node-based shader editor, and I mean it's like currently like the system is completely exposed. Like it's just that shaders are very very big complicated pieces of code.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. What you see here is it's almost like being a DJ. Right? You got a song on one side, a song on the other. You got a noise song on one side, you got a brick song on the other. And I'm using that little slider there, that factorial. It's not actually me changing the mesh. It's just me changing the diffuse color. So what that little mixer slider there, having, like, for instance, in Ultra, if I clicked on the floor, it tells you, like, here's its Cartesian location, here's its rotation, here's all this information, here's the shader that's applied to it. But did you know that there are actually 2 diffuse textures applied to this thing, and you have the opportunity of sliding this little slider left and right as an artist, right? Not having to use code. If you actually look at that little setup I've got there, I mean, this is the principal BSDF shader. That's all it is. And then I've got, a noise color channel and a brick color channel that are going into the diffuse slot. That's what that line is. But the difference is I put a mixer in between, and I'm just mixing left and right between those 2 channels. Those channels could be masked, it could be anything. It just exposes more functionality to the artist. That's all. I was just, I understand why people want a shader node-based system. It's visual, and there's some people that are just very visual. So, but it's just an idea.
Yeah, it's all I can say right now is it's a popular. This is one of the top feature requests. So,
speaking of shaders,
I think it would be good to have.
Do we support animated sprites yet for like particles and stuff?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Not yet.
All right.
I'm still waiting for rotation.
What, for the particles?
No, just rotation, just the texture, so you can just animate a texture.
Rotation. Okay, scrolling and stuff.
Yeah, but we have scrolling, but we don't have rotation. We have spinning.
Right. Okay.
That could also help with particles too, because you can have material spin and then you just emit.
Well, the material, the particles themselves have a spin value.
Right.
Yeah, but not for the animated sprite texture or texture.
Not it doesn't support different frames yet, though.
Yeah.
Again, if you were to do animated textures, I think a texture animator would actually be a good feature. Like if you just want something to, like all it does is just compress all the frames into one texture, so you don't have to write your own tool to do that.
In other words, a sprite.
Yeah, so
sprite sheet.
Yeah. Well, it could be a spreadsheet, or it could just be multiple frames.
Yeah, we support. Well, I mean, there's such a thing as an array texture,
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning before.
which is different
Yeah.
from now 3D texture. Those when you go down a bitmap, it resizes it not just on the x and on the u and v axis, but a 3D texture will resize the bitmap on the z or w axis as well. So that's not good for animation. Klepto actually says that he tried it, and he said that everything kind of runs together very quickly, and it's not good. An array texture is different because it only compresses the bitmap on the U and V axes, so that is appropriate for animated frames. So there, in other words, there is a way to, and that can be stored in a DDS file. So there is a way to store an entire animation in a single file.
Cool.
I've never used that technique in DDS, but that would be nice to have.
Well, we support loading and saving already. I just haven't really done anything with it yet, though. Beyond that,
Righto.
all right. Do we have any other questions or topics of interest this week?
Yeah. I wanted to ask about the feature that I was asking about earlier about the VR scaling of the
Okay.
headset thingy. I just wanted to ask, what do you think the priority would be for these kind of features? I like knowing that I was the first one to ask about this and the only one so far.
No,
Just wanted to ask.
yeah. So what he's asking about is being able to scale the VR player. It's a little bit. It's not just a matter of like moving the camera. It's actually like you have to scale everything, including the distance between the eyes, which is something I actually didn't think about. And you have to scale the positions of the controllers relative to the player. So it makes a lot of sense to just have an HMD set scale command that would handle all of this at once. And I think this is probably something that would work without. I don't think it's super hard to implement. So I think I'll actually take a stab at this next week and see what I can do. But I think I think I can probably do it without too much trouble. Is all I can say right now. I actually have done some projects in the past with like where the player was actually scaled, and the way I did it was by scaling up the entire world around them, which was not ideal. So I think
That's
you're
the Valve way.
okay. Yeah, so I think I think your idea is probably the best way to go with that. So I'll take a look at it next week. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, if you scale and increase the size between the eyes, it'll change the perspective of the world. Yes.
You did that for Kenny Seagull, right?
I don't know. Maybe.
Because you scaled us down.
That is perhaps correct.
Did something amazing, man.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember that was a very difficult task. Okay.
When in
Yeah,
doubt,
this would make
scale
things-
the world to 50 times to make it look like it's bigger than it really is.
That's
Well, I think
the third rule of Fight Club.
I think the scaling, just having a scale factor would just be helpful, and especially if you can do that in real time, that'd be a fun gameplay mechanic.
Yeah, I think
Like,
so. I gotta ask. So, what do you have an idea in mind? Are you gonna be like? Are you gonna turn into a mouse or something that you're like
Yeah,
flying?
yeah, yeah. That mostly. That's very what you said is very close to the idea. So to have the characters of the different size and scale, basically perspective, like small home animals and the human. Yeah,
yeah, so
that's
pretty much it's like Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap. We can shrink down and then you go into like all these tight corners and such. But in VR, that would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, yeah, very close. Like my idea is that like moving perspective from one character to another, but it would be almost the same as the like I don't know, transition from one character to another, something.
Yeah, and if you add a I think it's called. You just add you can just make it like if you do a curve value to it where it just goes down, or a lerp value where you could like make the player actually shrink in real time. I think that'd be a really cool effect instead of just hard setting the value.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
that would be very interesting actually. Okay, now I want to see.
Yeah, I thought about this. I thought about something similar, but again, we didn't have scaling, so
I want to be a
couldn't do it.
mouse in VR. Make it
Yeah.
happen, please.
Become a toy soldier.
Yeah, or you could do that with multiplayer. That would be really cool.
Toy soldier, yeah. Instead of making
Well,
the map just massive, like with regular skill players, you can just make the map like normal size and
Well, I
just
mean, like have some people big, some people small.
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions before we go?
No.
All right. Well, thank you very much. This is a really cool session. Thank you for your participation. And remember, Steam reviews are the life of Ultra. So your reviews on Steam really help us out, and I really appreciate it. So thank you. That's all for this week, and I will see you on the forum.
Yep. Bye.